a drop of blood, a strand of hair, or a dust flake of old skin. That is all law enforcement officers need in order to link you to a criminal investigation. DNA profiling took the field of forensics and criminal justice by storm. DNA can determine with pinpoint accuracy the perpetrators in crime, and the creation of databanks of DNA simplified the investigation process. With its quick emergence in the field of criminal justice, DNA profiling has become an important player in criminal justice and in criminal investigations, and will continue to be increasingly impactful on how law enforcement deals with crime. So before DNA testing, the earliest form of biometric identification were through blood tests, according to Professor Robin Williams of the University of Durham and his partner in a 2006 essay. The first of these types were just the simple blood types, such as A, B, AB, and O. And over the years, the other individual markers were discovered in the presence of certain enzymes in the blood. And after DNA was discovered, protein products created by DNA in transcription served as observable identification markers as well. These were used for simple criminal confirmation or elimination, and of already apprehended suspects only, but it was also not as effective as DNA, according to Paul Johnson of University of Durham in a 2003 essay. This biometric information was only able to examine proposed suspects and not find potential suspects like DNA can. And while each development did become more accurate, all of them left room for potential error through happen-chance similarity. DNA profiling was first done to determine paternity through genetic relationships, so it was outside of the forensic world initially. And it was first used in forensics in 1986, according to Lisa Calorandro in a 2005 article for Forensic Magazine. A molecular biologist was asked by England police to use DNA samples in a case of 2 rape murders in order to verify the innocence of the suspect. The suspect was in fact innocent, and the actual murder was also found through DNA examination. In the US, the first DNA test cause conviction happened in 1987. In a Florida circuit court, a rape case was solved by comparing blood samples with crime scene DNA. The growth of DNA testing saw rapid growth throughout the world, and very quickly it was integrated through criminal justice systems all around the world. Additional judicial decisions and technological improvements helped cause this and allowed a standardization of the process, because judicial decisions helped set a legal basis for DNA testing, while technological improvements made the testing more accurate and more reliable. How it works exactly is, first, a data bank is created based off the collection of DNA of criminals, and for most countries, only certain crimes, not all crimes, are criminals of all crimes are taken DNA from. And once a crime is committed with DNA evidence involved, the law enforcement can check and find matches with any previously collected DNA through the database. Previous criminals are able to be connected with all future crimes as well they commit due to their DNA being stored in this data bank, according to Michelle Hibbert, associate professor at Chicago Kent College of Law. Not only individuals themselves, but also close relatives can be traced back of future crimes, according to Professor Frederick Sieber of pathology at Harvard Medical School. Two techniques of surveillance are introduced by DNA profiling. Jeremy Gaines, PhD in law and MA in criminology, in 2001 essay states and theorizes. DNA profiling surveillance, the first one, he suggests, is basically the previous stated above process. There are they use links to known individuals and forensic evidence and to crime scene. However, the second form he suggests is called DNA request surveillance, and police ask suspects to give DNA to compare with DNA samples willingly to compare with DNA evidence from the crime, and this allows for policing by consent, which is both parties work in cooperation rather than automatically using legal power or force. The appeal to using DNA testing, one of these is it offers a scientific method for finding criminals easier. So, for example, historical methods use judicial cases such as fingerprints and eyewitness testimony to solve cases, but these also suffered weaknesses, according to Clive Norris of the University of Sheffield, UK, in a 2006 essay. Eyewitness testimonies, for example, they're based on memory and they can be forgotten, Meanwhile, fingerprints depend on the quality of the evidence left behind. DNA is not reliant on either of these, on both human memory or quality, on the sample left behind, so DNA is much sounder in court. The appeal also applies to the effective results and cost effectiveness in criminal investigations because DNA can determine the suspect with high accuracy, and doing this shortens the investigation, which saves money. Um, DNA testing can also solve previously unsolved cases, as well as DNA being collected to use to check for future crimes. The DNA collected can be applied to solve previously past unsolved crimes. For example, in the UK, Keith Samuels was arrested for tendering stolen checks, and his DNA was collected for that crime, and that DNA linked him to a series of rapes over 6 years, where he received multiple life sentences. With DNA testing, it has multiple impacts on the future. One of these would be the future of policing. Um, the future of policing would see science taking a bigger role in it. It'd also see a potential, so science would be a bigger role, more science-based information, and potential automation of the criminal investigation. So science can domineer over human judgment and decision potentially, and DNA is sometimes called the omnipresent witness by some, according to Professor Robin Williams. Police officers would also become, quote, technical agents of scientific rationality rather than representatives of particular social interests, quote, quote of Professor Paul Johnson of the University of Durham in his 2003 essay. Another impact of the future would be the adverse effects of DNA profiling. One of these would be the actual fear of these government systems holding and handling your DNA. This would give these entities access to your personal information. According to Dorothy Nelkin, professor of sociology and School of Law at New York University. Forensic officers claim that they make machines that scan for DNA only for identification, and not to view health information. But some departments, however, have been buying sequencing machines from DNA sequencing companies in order to save money. But these machines then allow them to view health information if desired, potentially. It also allows for the potential of discrimination. So law enforcement could decide to start testing for behavioral genetics as well as DNA testing. So all of these DNA they have in the data banks law enforcement could look and find predictive information of likely behaviors of an individual that would lead towards a criminal behavior, and this would create stereotyping around people with certain genes and certain behaviors. Another adverse effect would be the indirect collection of DNA of non-criminals. So victims of crimes also get their DNA examined at labs, as well can sometimes be banked. And relatives of family of a criminal share enough genetic information that allows their kinship to be identified. Due to their kinship, they're able to be identified by the likeness of a criminal's DNA. In conclusion, DNA profiling is an important staple in current day criminal investigations, and will continue to impact how the future policing is done and how individuals experience surveillance by the state. Starting from simple blood types and blood samples, biometric information in forensics grew to a sophisticated tool of investigation. The use of DNA profiling provides an easy way to solve an investigation in a scientific matter that saves time and money for law enforcement and can solve cases that went cold. DNA profiling shows that the growing role of science in criminal investigations and can hint at potential movements toward more automated approaches in policing and abuses to non-criminals. But like any technique of surveillance is only as good or bad as application and its use on society and its individuals. Thank you.